Hello, everyone. This is the humble beginnings to a channel that I hope will grow and thrive over the years as I continue to do this and continue to voice my opinions as a information consuming American. A little background on myself. I am 18. I'm a black male, obviously, and I hail from the South, from the state of Mississippi. A little background on the channel now is that I hope that this channel, as it grows, will become sort of a source, another, if you will, another conservative source of information. And I want to take somewhat of a different approach to conservatism as it comes from the black perspective. I think I kind of want this to be like the cornerstone of black conservative thought. One thing that I see throughout the media is that conservatism really doesn't have much of a mainstay, if you want to call it that. Obviously, there are very conservative sources, but it's still liberalism still somewhat wins over conservatism because understandably liberalism is more inclusive. Liberalism is less strict, and especially with my generation, liberalism is somewhat more welcoming because we want to be inclusive. We want to accept everyone and love them and care for them and whatnot. Not that we accept everything from the get-go or as it seems, but just the overall point is that we want to accept all people. And conservatism from that does not offer that because conservatism, if you think, especially this generation, conservatism is associated with rich white old men that give a cautious eye to the black man next door because he thinks he's probably going to get robbed and something like that. And I kind of want to reverse that stigma, about conservatism because I am from the South and I am raised in a black conservative home. And I know the importance of conservatism not only as a value, but simply in America's history. Because America, up to recently, has been conservative. And when she was conservative, she did her best, her better works with slavery or what have you. And when she became more liberal, that's when you had so many more problems with America's history. And I want to rectify that as much as possible with this channel. I want to speak on more conservative tones, especially from a black perspective. I think one of the first issues that I will address is one that has been rather pressing on my mind for a number of years when I began to think about myself as a black person in America and how to project myself as a black person is that recently how we've been projecting ourselves in response to police shootings and things of that sort. And really, the scourge of these, I feel, is the Black Matters activist group. When George Floyd was killed, I mean, obviously everyone was sad. It was a very traumatic event. But I wasn't concerned about his death, to be bluntly speaking. What I was concerned about was the black response and how the world would ally with it. I knew that the world would come together because it was a very dramatic thing. It was equivalent to a lynching in public. I mean, I'm from Mississippi. You know the tension when it happens. But one thing about us down here is that sort of thing is not really that big. And by big, I mean it's not that much of a cause of alarm to where we realize that, oh, we're black and we're hunted down. As I said, we live in Mississippi. What we focus on down here, at least the more thinking of us, is how we are projected, how we can get out of that situation. And one thing I looked is how Black Lives Matter took a very militant approach to these things. And instead of them educating our men on how not to get in these situations, because one thing that hurt me more than the fact that George Floyd was killed was the fact that this man has already had a criminal record, was the fact that this man was already caught. And I come from a very close knit black community. And one thing I know about us is that we look after our own. And I'm wondering, where was the intervention when this man was accused with a counterfeit bill? Where was the black community to support him? But it was still very close court, very close cut, because the way he was killed was still very wrong. Um, I feel that the ruling, and he would not have been accused had they not videotaped it. And it reminded me, obviously, that we are still disenfranchised. But as I said, it's nothing new to me. After this, there were more shootings. Remember Breonna Taylor and Jacob Blake, especially. And Jacob Blake stood out to me very much because one thing that I think is another thing that's not being echoed enough among black people, and is my issue of Black Lives Matter, which I'll get to later, is in the South, we know where we are. We're around a lot of white people. And one thing, disclaimer, as I said, I'm in Mississippi. There is not as much racism as one who's not from here would believe. There is still some, and from, once again, a woke black person, you have to watch where you go. But it's not as prevalent as it once was. It's getting better. Things are improving as slowly as they are. You can tell there's a bit of improvement. But one thing that I'm taught is always to be conscious around my surroundings. And one thing about Jacob Blake that I thought was weird was why would he keep walking with the officers having guns pointed at his back? Now, granted, I'll give him the benefit that maybe he was nervous, maybe he wasn't thinking, which I can understand. It's a very stressful situation. I think, if I remember correctly, he was trying to break up a confrontation between two women when the police were called and they got involved. But my point is, remember, you are black in America. You understand that, or at least assume that you are a hunted target. So then why would you put yourself in that situation? Or why would you contribute, I should rather say contribute to that situation? One thing that really, really didn't aggravate me was the fact that this was not being concentrated on. And I go to an HBCU, I'm in college, I go to an HBCU, and that wasn't really focused on. Is that sort of personal responsibility that I was born and bred up on. I started driving, I drive the speed limit, to ensure, not that that's going to protect me from getting pulled by police officers, not that it's going to keep me from being killed, but it's more of an issue of personal responsibility that I feel that is becoming more lost among black people. The reason I say this is because of the killing of Ma'Khia Bryant in the exact same area that George Floyd was killed in. My issue with this is that people still haven't gotten the issue of personal responsibility. Because my first question is, why is she stabbing other people? Now, once again, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. I know how it goes. Maybe she got into an argument. But I have still more problems with this. Okay, we are supposed to be a black community that's supposed to stand together. That's not the entire point of this whole Black Lives Matter thing. But when it came time for us to stand together, this girl obviously was in a confrontation with others in the community. From what I can garner, people already were gathered, or at least knew this. But as soon as the police come in the area, they say, from what I read, she's already fighting with another girl. And then, when the police finally pushes her down, the cop finally pushes her down, she begins now to rush another girl with a knife, in which the cop shoots her. And my first question is, what is she doing with a knife? Why is she attempting to stab other people? What is going on here? Now, she's a minor. I completely understand. I'm not putting any blame on her. I don't know her situation. But my issue with is the black community and how we responded to that. Instead of trying to figure out why our youth, especially our black women, who are already disadvantaged in society, instead of figuring out why she's holding a knife and attempting to harm two other black people, we're going to focus instead on the fact that a white man came onto the scene and shot and killed her. Remember, this man doesn't know what's going on. He's in no confrontation. This is a police officer trained to put down a harmful subject that is harmful to someone else. That is what he saw. That is what he reacted to. Another issue that I have is right down in Mississippi, a bit from where I live in Hermanville, Mississippi. To be fair, I need to get the details of this. But my issue with this is that I see no Black Lives Matter activism down here. I don't see anyone advocating for black independence. I don't understand why a black life only has to matter when it's killed by a white person. Because only maybe about a month ago in Hermanville, a girl, 14-year-old girl or 13-year-old girl, stabbed and killed a 14-year-old boy. From what I heard, I need to get the news article and I'll put it in the description for those who want to read it. But from what I heard, it was started from a confrontation. And she was given the knife. Well, somehow she got a hold of the knife. But there were bystanders around when she stabbed the boy to death. And my point is, this is a tragic loss of life, two tragic losses of life, because now, once again, this girl, she's been charged as an adult. She's lost her life. She has pretty much no future ahead of her. And this boy, he's dead, so there's nothing left for him. Yet I hear no cries of justice. I don't hear anyone calling out at the parents for allowing this girl to kill this boy. Just as I don't hear anyone saying anything about Miss Taylor moving out to kill to harm, not to kill. I'm just going to say to harm these other two girls, Miss Bryant attempted to harm two other people. And yet a black life only has to matter when it is taken by a white police officer. Like I said, I'm born in Mississippi. And to put it frankly, these romanticized things about black people, a long list of black people that are being disparaged by white men, it means nothing to me. Because I live in the state, in America, besides, I think, the Virgin Islands in the Washington, D.C., Mississippi is the third largest concentration of blacks in America, including the territory. The first is the Virgin Islands, the second is Washington, D.C., and the third is Mississippi. I see how black people operate every day. And one of the problems that I think needs to be addressed is in our own community. We don't have fathers very often in the home, and mothers are forced to take care of their children by themselves, as they often do. And whenever you have this core problem in the black community that's not addressed, it's not really much of a surprise to why there's so much violence among us as a people, and additionally why there's so much confusion, which brings me to Black Lives Matter. I don't have a problem with black activism groups, but what I have a problem with an activism group is when it calls itself to be in the people. These are supposed to be black people, and they fail to address the core problem in the black community. Once again, I do not contest the existence of racism. It's very much a problem, and it needs to be solved. But what I feel is equally as a problem, as a conservative, as I said, is our own responsibility. Because there's been thousands of times where black people haven't had as much violence among us when we were being actively killed on the streets under Jim Crow. And yet when we have much more opportunity, do we have a lot more crime rate among ourselves, and will we be being put into prison for so many violent crimes? I do not agree with systematic racism and racial profiling. But no matter what it is, you can disagree with me. But it's very difficult. As humans, we form patterns whenever we see a pattern. We have that ability to form patterns whenever we keep seeing something recurring. If 9 times out of 10, or I'm going to say this, 5 times out of 10, or 5 times out of 15, or 7 times out of 15, you see a black man performing a violent crime, you can be the most Christian, the most good, God-loving, you can be the best person in the world. You're going to eventually associate blacks, not necessarily black people, but if someone tells you of a violent crime, you're more often going to expect a black person to do that violent crime, which is an issue. We should not have this stigma, yet this is not what's being addressed. All that's being addressed is the fact that a black person is killed and not why he's being killed, or the underlying reasons to why he was killed, or what we can do as a community to prevent it. Because at the end of the day, I don't need acceptance from a white person. I don't need to be accepted. I don't need him to give me anything. Because at the end of the day, Martin Luther King and Booker T. Washington and just a myriad of black people have already made it to where I, as a black American, can get what I want. I could start my own business and hire my own black people. But it's a problem, especially in Mississippi, if half of your population is incarcerated. If I can't start a business in my capital city, Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm worried about the water going out, or I'm worried about my store being robbed by someone who looks like me. This is the problem that we need to address in the black community, and this is my main issue with Black Lives Matter. Detroit is still a broke town with a lot of drugs running through and no one does anything. Chicago still has a bunch of ghettoisms. There's ghettoisms among black people everywhere. And once again, I agree. They are also the product of racism. But after a while, people, black folks have to take some sort of responsibility. And for what I'm seeing so far, that sort of responsibility hasn't been taken. Because it's a shame if a girl who's obviously harming someone of her own race, when she's rightfully taken down, because I'm sorry, if I'm a police officer and I know nothing about the prior situation, she's going around stabbing people, I'm going to put her down. Because I need to protect the people that are not doing wrong. So as far as the cop is concerned, I think he did as much as he could in that situation. He can't just sit up there. He's a human like the rest of us. So once again, I think this has gone on for long enough. It's about to be like 17 minutes. I think this is a good start to where I hope to grow and explain. And I hope also that on this platform meet other like-minded people that understand. And one thing about America, about my generation, I'm not attempting to throw Black Lives Matter out of the window. I'm not attempting to throw liberal thought out of the window. But what I want to do is put conservative thought on the shelf and demonstrate what conservative thought actually is. So, pretty much, I think that this is a good start. It's gone on long enough. I hate self-advertisement, but, share it if you agree with it. But I think more importantly, let me know what your thoughts are, because I'm not really concerned about sharing. If it's worth something, it's gonna get out, and this will get out. But give me your input. And in the comments, I read comments all the time. I read a lot. Don't give me anything stupid. I don't read stupidity. I don't read arguments. I read debates. If you have something that you want to say, any sort of constructive criticism, it'll be well regarded. Or if you have some issue that maybe, I know this is new. It's a new channel, and I haven't really started a name for myself. But if you want maybe to hear my thoughts on other things, feel free to put that in the description, or in the comments rather, too. The news article of the Hermanville stabbing I'll put there for your reading, as I said earlier. But this is the end of this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, at least give me some constructive criticism, so I can hope to grow this channel. At least put my voice out there, so that I can, at the end of my life, at the end of my road, whatever it may be, when I look upon the issues of this world, I can say that at least I tried. And that is what I want the purpose of this channel to be. That I got my voice out there, that I told the world what I thought about it, and let my voice be known. So that's enough for me right now. Thanks for listening. And yeah, see you next time.